Every single day, billions of people wake up completely convinced that they are entirely in control of their own decisions. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a deeply fascinating and honestly, a slightly unsettling psychological reality. Just think about your morning for a second. You chose what to wear, right? You chose what to eat. You probably chose which videos to watch, which opinions to defend, and exactly who to trust. We live in a modern world that absolutely celebrates this kind of individual choice as one of humanity's ultimate freedoms. But beneath that really comfortable belief lies a massive, invisible architecture that is quietly shaping your behavior from the shadows.
So, I want you to let this question really sit with you for a moment. What if your thoughts were never entirely yours to begin with? What if your behavior, your preferences, your deeply held beliefs could be guided without you ever consciously realizing it? It's a pretty heavy thought, isn't it? It challenges that comforting illusion of true independence we all hold on to so tightly. We tend to think of influence as this really obvious thing, like an aggressive car salesman or a loud political campaign. But the disturbing truth? Persuasion surrounds us from the literal second we open our eyes until the moment we fall asleep.
And here is the real kicker. The strongest influence out there doesn't actually feel like influence at all. It just feels like choice. The absolute most powerful forms of persuasion operate so seamlessly that they don't register as pressure. They just feel completely natural. They feel like your own authentic preferences. And that raises an incredibly profound question. How much of what we think is truly our own doing, and how much of it was carefully shaped by forces we never even saw? To figure that out, we have to look a lot deeper than just modern marketing tricks. We actually have to look inside the human brain itself.
So let's peel back the first layer, the brain's ancient shortcuts. We humans, we really love to imagine ourselves as these highly rational, logical creatures who carefully weigh every single option before making a move. But let's be real. Evaluating every single claim independently, starting from scratch every time, that would be absolutely exhausting. It is a massive mental drain. So, over thousands of generations, our brains evolved shortcuts just to conserve energy. Instead of painstakingly analyzing everything, we learn to instinctively trust social signals: popularity, authority, consensus. These specific signals helped our ancestors make split-second decisions, completely bypassing the heavy lifting of logical analysis.
Picture a small tribe, say 10,000 years ago. A hunter runs up and warns everyone about some immediate danger down by the river. Nobody stops to demand a detailed analytical breakdown or peer-reviewed evidence. People just listen and react. Because back then, hesitation literally meant death. Trusting the social signal gave you a survival advantage. Now, fast forward to today. That biological instinct is exactly the same, but our environment, it has changed completely. We are now bombarded by infinite digital signals, all competing fiercely for our attention. And what once kept us alive in the wild now leaves us highly persuadable.
Moving deeper, we hit layer 2, confidence and manufactured authority. So, if our brains are already hardwired for these energetic shortcuts, what happens when someone deliberately uses confidence to hijack those ancient pathways? Imagine two people making the exact same statement using identical information. One speaks a bit hesitantly, the other speaks with absolute unwavering certainty. It's wild, but our brains instinctively trust the confident speaker. Why is that? Because historically, certainty was a strong signal of leadership. Today, we constantly misinterpret certainty as competence, even when it's completely unwarranted. We all claim to value hard evidence, but time and time again, we are swayed simply by conviction.
And conviction has an even more powerful sibling, which is authority. Authority is essentially a psychological shortcut that simplifies uncertainty. When human beings feel unsure, and let's face it, in our modern complex world that is quite often, we naturally seek guidance. We look for someone who appears knowledgeable, experienced, or totally in control. The absolutely crucial word there is appears. Authority triggers something incredibly ancient inside the human mind, and it completely bypasses our critical thinking in the process. Because of this, the brain is constantly scanning its environment for signals of authority to save energy. A perfectly tailored luxury suit, that little blue verified badge on social media, a beautifully lit professional-looking office, a massive follower count. In a world largely governed by personal branding and digital algorithms, authority is very often just a performance. Yet, our ancient psychology still forces us to bow to it and follow along, all while we genuinely believe we're thinking for ourselves.
Which brings us to layer 3, the emotional crowd.
We often imagine our decision-making happening inside this clean, rational vacuum. But the truth is, emotions usually show up first. Logic just arrives late to the party to justify whatever we're already feeling. Think about it. Advertisements rarely sell actual products anymore. They sell identities. Picture a high-end commercial. The music is incredibly cinematic, the atmosphere is perfectly aspirational, nobody explicitly looks at the camera and says, "Buy this to be a better person," yet that emotional association is formed instantly in your mind. Modern influence understands this beautifully. Commercials sell status, success, and belonging. Political campaigns, they don't sell policies, they sell fear, outrage, and the promise of protection. They bypass your logic and attach their message directly to your deepest underlying feelings.
And honestly, nowhere is human emotion more easily manipulated than when we're part of a crowd. Imagine for a second clicking on a video that only has 3 views. Okay, now imagine that exact same video, literally identical content, but it has 50 million views. Be honest, the 50 million view version instantly feels more trustworthy, doesn't it? It feels more important, more valuable. This is the crushing psychological weight of social proof. To our brains, extreme popularity signals safety. Consensus signals acceptance.
Today, our survival tribe isn't a small village. It is entirely digital. Likes, shares, and virality act as our new societal consensus for what is safe and what is desirable. We are constantly observing what everyone else is doing before we decide what we should do. It's a vast, continuous psychological feedback loop. Millions of people constantly looking to millions of other people for guidance. And it is quietly shaping our opinions and behaviors every single day.
Now let's look at Layer 4, the invisible digital architecture.
Here's where things get truly modern. We've reached a point where even crowds are no longer the most persuasive force in our society. For nearly all of human history, persuasion required a human persuader, a charismatic salesperson, a loud leader, a trusted friend. Today, influence operates continuously at a global scale through totally invisible systems. We're talking about algorithms studying your specific behavior, platforms meticulously tracking where your eyes linger on the screen, artificial intelligence predicting your unstated preferences with terrifying accuracy. The goal of these systems isn't to violently force you to do anything. It's to gently, subtly guide you.
They've built what is essentially a frictionless loop. The next video just magically appears. The next product is smoothly recommended. The next notification fires precisely when you are most vulnerable to picking up your phone. Each individual choice feels incredibly small. It feels harmless, and most importantly, it feels entirely personal to you. You just experience it as convenience. But collectively, over time, these systems actively shape your attention. And your attention shapes your thoughts. What you consume influences what you believe, and ultimately, what you believe influences who you become.
Finally, Layer 5, awakening from influence.
So, we've seen how our basic biology, our powerful emotions, and this new invisible technology all combine to create an environment where the most effective persuasion is completely unseen. We naturally resist obvious aggressive commands, but we very rarely resist an influence that we mistake for our own independent thinking. Now, this doesn't mean you lack free will, not at all, but perhaps true independence isn't about escaping influence completely. That's impossible. Perhaps independence actually begins with the simple awareness of influence. It's about consciously recognizing those authority signals, spotting the social proof, and acknowledging the algorithms that are quietly curating your reality.
Tonight, millions of people around the world will make decisions they believe are entirely self-directed. They will be totally unaware of the invisible architectures shaping their minds in the dark. So the question isn't whether persuasion exists everywhere around us. We know it does. The real question is whether we can catch it in the act. Because the most dangerous influence isn't the one you actively fight against. It's the one you accepted so seamlessly you never even knew it was there. So as you step back out in your world today, do you recognize it?